My name's Abdullah Seymour, and I'm 30 years old, and I converted to Islam 8 years ago, I think, and in Sheffield, which is my hometown in the north of England, and now I live in Norwich, in the east of England. All my family's kind of from Derbyshire, which is one of the counties in England. My father is a salesman, and my mother kind of works part-time at a school, and I have an older sister who's 4 years older than me. My parents weren't religious. They went to, I think, Sunday school, they call it, where you learn about the Bible. So they went to that when they were younger, but I was never taken to church and never felt the need to go to church. And so now, I mean, my family is not, again, still not religious as such, and but at the same time, I think most people believe in God. Now, at one point when I was quite low, if you like, in my life, I met someone who was Christian, a nice guy, and he gave me a copy of the Bible, which I used to read, and I could see that there was something, it had something in it which was true. Like, wow, this is unlike anything I've read before. But I just naturally, kind of, without really thinking about it, just naturally kind of moved away from it. I mean, I never really embraced it. Even when I went through that kind of phase, I never went to a church or anything. So, yeah, the whole thing of the Trinity and all these other things, just didn't sit right. Because really, ultimately, the heart is the thing that makes the decision. When September the 11th happened, that was the first time that I actually kind of thought, what's going on here? So when I first met a Muslim, kind of got to know them more, I was desperate to know, what do you believe in? What is it that you actually believe in? Because the image that the media had planted in my mind, which is the same for everyone in this country and probably throughout the world, is Islam equals terrorism, women in black bags, and angry men with huge beards, usually shouting and angry, and oppression and wife beating and always causing trouble. And that was the image that was kind of, subconsciously in my mind. And I wanted to know, well, what, there must be more to it than that. There's 1.5 billion Muslims in the world. They're not all like that. So what is Islam? What do you actually believe in? Is it about terrorism or is it about something else? So it was kind of pursuing that, really, that kind of took me on the path of Islam. I met someone who was Muslim, and that was the initial kind of, that's where all the questions came from, was really just kind of interested to know, because the Muslims I knew previously never really opened up, never really told me much about it. Maybe because they didn't know much about it themselves, that they were just Muslim because their parents were Muslim and they didn't really ever really think about it. So so I got given some leaflets about Islam, which weren't very good, in fact, and didn't really do Islam justice, of course, because they never can. And I was given a translation of the Quran. So it was reading about Islam and asking questions, what do you think about this and what do you think about this, and finding out things like, oh, you believe in Jesus as being a prophet, and oh, you believe in Abraham, and you believe in Adam and Eve, and all these kind of names that we grew up with, if you like. Then you have to say, well, there's something in that, and that was quite a big thing for me, like how come, like 1400 years ago, a man in the middle of the desert, I mean the middle of nowhere, that you can't possibly imagine how isolated they were, and for him to say don't drink alcohol, for example, and then 1400 years later there's 1.5 billion people in the world who don't drink alcohol because of that one man. You have to say, well, that's not an ordinary man. That's something else. That's something quite special. So I was just kind of intrigued, really, And when I used to read the translation, it was just, it felt like, you know, God was speaking to me directly, you know, and it was just kind of undeniable. So I used to sometimes just pray and ask this thing I've always believed in, because I've always believed in something, but not the Christian version of God, of a man in the sky with who looks like Santa Claus. You know, I never believed in that, but I did believe in something, and so I used to ask that thing, that force, if you like, for guidance and to show me, you know, what is the truth, and be willing to accept the answer. So if it was something that I didn't like, you know, to follow it anyway. You know, so if the truth was Islam, then I will follow Islam, and if it was Hinduism, then I would have followed Hinduism. But it became clear, Allah just made the signs very clear that the truth is Islam, you know. And 8 years later, you know, I've been Muslim for 8 years, so there's no doubt about it, you know, that there is, you know, there's no God except Allah, and Mohammad is His messenger.
It's after Jummah now. I'm just waiting for the friends to come out, and then we're going to go down to a cafe, which is our tradition after Jummah, to go for coffee. So just waiting for them now. Assalamu alaikum. Salam. Bismillah. Let's go.
Tribute.
Tribute.
Imam Malik like white. Where were your classes? Favorite colour?
Mashallah. Mashallah.
You used to wear white, so Assalamu alaikum. My name is Asad Habib. I know Abdullah Seymour. I've known him for around 6 years now. We met in, I think, 2005. I kind of grew up in Sheffield, and Abdullah was from Sheffield as well. And we just met in a gathering of people, just never met him before, and I thought, mashallah, another Gora Muslim, so I was quite happy with that. But we didn't really know each other much then, and we left it, nothing happened. And then about 8 months later, the group that we was with, they just wanted to give dawah to people, and there was a rota, and I never realised Abdullah was on the same group, and we had a table just educating people about Islam, and on that particular day it was me and Abdullah again, and it was just nice to see that even after those 8 or 9 months, he was quite passionate and wanted to educate the people about that Islam isn't about culture. You don't have to be from a certain culture in that way, but it's about a way of living your life. Then we started attending Quran together and Hadith classes. But I think what's really, certainly you can see it in Abdullah in his example, is that you take energy from people. Like, a lot of people are born Muslim, and we take advantage of that. And what I like was that when I met new Muslims, and they can be from any background, as long as, but it's quite inspirational that they're learning the Quran and they're learning the Salah, and many times they do it better than you.
Exactly, I agree with you. And the jais again.
So it humbles you that, subhanallah, that you leave, you're not bothered about the deen, and Allah raises another people up. So it was more about me as well. It's not just about Abdullah, and that's, you'll find that when they spend time with Muslims in that way, a lot of people would agree with that. And other people have been here. It helped that we was from the same city, so we shared the same accent or whatever, or knowledge of
accent.
Not sure about football teams, but United fan or what? Yeah. Really? So there you go.
United fan.
Brilliant. It tops it off. So it's been wonderful to kind of take. It's about taking the energy and giving it as well, and really seeing his life has progressed, should I say? And then he had his daughter and his wife, my wife, and really there's no. They help you integrate, and they help you with your deen, and that's what it's about. It's about keeping company. And alhamdulillah, I feel very grateful that Allah made us all meet, and that's what companionship is about. And you realise something about the Sahaba. They were Persian, there was Iranian, there was Moroccan, or the regions now, the Palestinian,
Exactly, yeah.
different names. But it was about their coming together, not about where they was from. And if you can even have a little taste, a seed of that by new Muslims, then please welcome them into your homes. You'll get as much out of it as they will.
I was actually a DJ, so I used to play in clubs, and yeah, all the things, you know, drinking. Used to smoke weed, and I mean, this is the dominant culture now, and so just you know, did that really, but you know, it's not like the greatest crime in the world to go to a club and listen to music. You know, you have to put it in perspective, you know, compared to the other things that are going on in society. So yeah, I used to DJ. I mean, I probably played in front of maybe probably the most is about 600 people. In fact, my last ever gig was before Goldie was quite famous. So I was playing 11 till 12, and he was playing 12 till 2. So that was my last ever gig. So I kind of went out, kind of retired with a bang. When I decided to become Muslim, it was very spontaneous. Like, I didn't kind of think, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna take Shahada. It was very spontaneous. It was in the moment, realizing that one day I was going to die, and wanting to make sure that I was Muslim before I died. So when I realized, wow, I really need to do it, it was like, okay, take Shahada. So it was very quick, in fact, and it was in someone's house, just one person, and yeah, I was 21 years old, I think, and it was a Saturday night. So not what people normally do on a Saturday night when they're 21. So it was very spontaneous, and at that stage I didn't know that much, in fact, about Islam, but I did know that it was true, and I believed in it. And then I kind of lost contact with my friend at the time, so I didn't really have anyone else to kind of, you know, to guide me and help me along the way, because there's a lot to learn. But I was very fortunate because I met lots of fellow new Muslims, and I was amazed that there was other people had become Muslim, because when I became Muslim I didn't know that other people did that. You know, I'd never seen it. I'd never met a new Muslim before. So when I first met, wow, you became Muslim as well. It was like, wow, tell me, you know, how did it happen, you know, and you're just amazed, you know, that it happened to someone else. And then you realise it's quite common, in fact. But, you know, you might not necessarily know, if I walked past you in the street, you might not know that I was Muslim, because I don't have a beard down here and I'm not brown-skinned, which is the perception of most Muslims. So there's so many Muslims out there, but people have no idea that they're Muslim, and also you know, that they could actually be quite strong Muslims. You know, that someone who's a good Muslim doesn't necessarily have a certain look, which a lot of Muslims mistakenly think. I met my wife actually. The first time I met her was we were organising an open market here in the city centre, and my friend had a stall selling books, like Islamic books, and he said to me that he'd had a really bad day and he'd not sold many books. And I said to him, okay, I'll sell a book for you to the next person who walks in into the market. So he said, oh yeah, okay then, yeah, whatever. So I turned around, and in walked a woman, and so I approached her and said, I have a book for you which I think you should buy. So I quickly picked up a book which was called The Empowerment of Women in Islam, and she bought the book, and then I found out later that she was Muslim. So that was the first time I actually met my wife, And then I used to sometimes bump into her in the street and sometimes in the mosque. I'd see her and we'd, you know, talk to each other, and there was obviously some kind of connection, I guess. So we decided to get married in 3 weeks' time. So it was very quick, and so we organised the wedding in basically 3 weeks, which was a challenge, but you know, alhamdulillah, it was an amazing wedding. I mean, the barakah, I mean, obviously, because it's my own wedding and I'm always going to think that, but it was actually an amazing event.
My name's Shalina Siraj, and I'm married to Abdullah Seymour. We've been married for over 3 years now, and we've got a little toddler. I was born a Muslim, and my upbringing, we had Islamic teaching, but we were living in this country, England, things like the schooling. Well, actually, I went to a Christian school, and so it was at home. Any Islamic teaching was at home, and sometimes a child growing up, definitely for myself and others around, there was definitely a bit of confusion between perhaps culture, the way our parents did things, and Islam. So it was only really in my 20s that I really got to know the community here and learnt about it. And then I can see the difference in Abdullah being a convert. Definitely very refreshing. He's very keen to learn. His level of knowledge on Islam was very great when I met him, and he's always improved himself. He's always keen to learn and meticulous about it. So there's lots of things I can ask him and do ask him just because he just knows more. Whereas being born a Muslim, I think you can just slip into not really wanting to further yourself because you just think, oh, well, I know because I've done this. For example, perhaps the prayers or the fasting, and you just think, oh, well, this is how I used to always do it when I was a child, or this is how my parents did it. But then you soon realise, actually, your parents can make mistakes. You can, as a child, just take things for granted and not really appreciate, true Islam. And I think when somebody becomes a Muslim, they've really thought about it, they've really taken the time to understand it, and they have a real passion, which is so refreshing and very admirable. I'm really lucky because Abdullah's family are very easy to get on with, and I hope they feel the same, but I think we have a good relationship. They're very easy to be around, they're very, they're fun to be around. They really enjoy life and, like the best, and it is, for me, it's easy to spend time with them.
I have my own business, which is we import and distribute fine foods, so things like oils, vinegars, dressings, sauces, olives, spices. We have many exclusive products which we make ourselves, and which we import some things from abroad, and when we sell them to delicatessens and farm shops and food halls, mainly independent shops, nationwide, mostly in East Anglia, which is the east of England, if you like, because that's where we're based. But we are expanding more and more into the rest of the country, and eventually maybe even export as well, so import and export. Although I was previously working for a multinational company, I quit that job and started working for myself, and as a Muslim it's so important, in fact, to work for yourself, because then you can manage your own time. And Islam, someone once said, which sums it up for me about culture, is that Islam is not culture. Islam is a filter for culture, so it allows some aspects of culture and stops other things. So Islam raises up the society, but in the Muslim world, unfortunately, that's not necessarily happening. And the Muslim world has kind of bought into many of the ills of of the rest of the non-Muslim world to its own detriment, and looking upon the West as being this shining example, when actually, you know, the many aspects of the West has collapsed, you know, economically, politically, socially, almost everything. You know, it's become it's just fallen apart. And so for the Muslims to follow that is insane. And at the same time, the solution is in our own religion, which is to return to the model of Medina. And because Medina, at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was the perfect community. And it doesn't mean that we have to ride camels down Norwich High Street, but it does mean that they have an economic model which is perfect, a political model which is perfect, and a social model which is incredible, of how people behave and how people interact with each other. And that is and the Muslims just need to return to what's in their own past, in fact, but with a modern twist, but staying within the parameters of the Sharia. So it's the natural way of organising society, and probably most importantly, the financial and trade aspect of Islam, which has been kind of forgotten by Muslims, unfortunately, now. But half of Islamic law is concerning trade and commerce. So and that is very important in this age, because the dominant religion now in the world is capitalism, basically. That is the thing that has dominated over all the religions. So everyone has this funny paper money which is not real, and the bankers are basically destroying the earth, and you know, and most people, the purpose of their life is just to climb the career ladder and to make as much money as they can at the expense of the earth and everyone on it. So that's the dominant religion, because it's a whole way of life, that needs kind of tweaking. It needs changing to bring it into the parameters of Islam. And like I say, half of Islamic law is about exactly this thing of, you know, money and trade, and having markets where people can trade, and having importing and exporting from the markets, and the guilds. It's a whole system, but unfortunately, like 1% of it is intact. And actually, in about 2 months, I'm going to be making hijrah to Malaysia, because there's kind of pockets of an Islamic revolution where people are returning to the gold dinar and the silver dirham, and everything that goes along with that, i.e. the markets, the caravans, the guilds, and the proper Islamic contracts. So I'm moving to be part of that resurgence, if you like, in implementing it. No, I mean, this is the happiest I've ever been in my life, and I think as a Muslim, it only gets better as well, you know. And the more you rely on Allah, and the more you turn away from this world, then the more content you become. It's not a cultural thing. It's not for certain people, or you know, for a certain time. It's for every people, for every time, until the end of time. And God is the one who's created your heart, and the one who knows what's best for you. You know, that's the only way you can live, and you can still have fun. You know, you don't need to be, you know, okay, I'm Mr. Religious now, and you know, I'm not going to have a good time. No, we as Muslims, we should have the best time, in fact, because you know, we're the people who have submitted to Allah. So I mean, we should have the nicest time in the dunya, the best of the dunya and the best of the next world.